3, the Caroline County Planning Commission to order. I invite each and every one of you to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. By way of introduction, I will start to my far left. We have Mr. J.D. Young representing the Reedy Church District. To my left is Vice Chair Dr. Carol Horton representing Port Royal. I am Bob Schwartz representing the Bowling Green District. To my right is Mr. Purcell Minor representing the Mattaponi District. To his right, Mr. George Weber representing the Madison District. And on the far end is Mr. Richard Williams representing Western Caroline. Staff tonight, we have Mr. Leon Hughes, who is the zoning administrator, Mr. Craig Pennington, our planner, Mr. Mike Fincham is the director of the planning department. We have, Mr. Craig McKenzie from the county attorney's office. We have Priscilla Voigt, who is sitting way down on the left. She and Mr. Cody, I'm almost forgetting his name, Shanahan, are handling our IT and audio and video production tonight so that we are broadcasting live stream via YouTube. So without further ado, Commissioners, on our agenda, we have item 3, unfinished business. And without objection, I'm going to move that to item 4C, just prior to any and all matters at the end of the agenda. Our first order of business will be a public hearing. And Mr. Hughes, are you handling Mr. McKenzie, I'm sorry, Mr. Pennington, if you would be so kind as to read the protocol for the public hearing, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Purpose of a public hearing is for the Caroline County Planning Commission to listen carefully to the verbal expression and position and opinion from citizens of Caroline County. Public hearings are not question and answer sessions or debates, and all statements should be addressed to the chair. When members of the public offer comment, they need to clearly state their name, voting district prior to making their comments. Applicants or representatives of the applicant will be allowed 15 minutes to introduce information regarding the matter advertised for public hearing. All comments are to be pertinent to the issue being considered. Persons speaking at public hearings are respectfully requested to keep comments brief, not to exceed 3 minutes, and to address only those issues pertinent to the matters advertised for public hearing. After the public hearing has been closed, the applicant or representatives of the applicant will be allowed 10 minutes to address any issues identified by the public.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hughes, are we taking up first item 3A, the text amendment 10-2023? That's the one we just moved. All right, sir. All right. Let's see. I believe the next item is special exemption 02-2023, Champion Domain Beverly Run LLC, owner, Warriors Heart, Virginia LLC, applicant. Mr. Pennington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. The applicant is requesting approval of a therapeutic health facility located on tax map numbers 76-5-1 and 76-A-19. This parcel was previously used as a therapeutic health facility in the past and was most recently been approved as a religious retreat for the ISSO organization in 2017. Next slide. Warriors Heart is an organization who helps PTSD veterans and emergency services personnel with services and training. All services are conducted by licensed and certified health professionals. Warriors Heart specializes in substance abuse treatment and co-occurring psychological disorders with special attention to post-traumatic stress, unresolved grief loss, and moral injury. Attendees will go through a 42-day treatment program, however, are free to extend their stay or leave the treatment program. Should an attendee choose to leave the program, they are taken to an airport and flown back to their original residence. Warriors Heart currently operates a facility in Banderas, Texas, which has been in operation since 2015. Next slide. Warriors Heart plans to utilize the facility as it stands. There's currently a main structure with offices, commercial kitchen, cafeteria, common room, and several dorm rooms. 2 other dorm structures are on site with kitchens, common rooms, and dorm rooms, and will be utilized, one of which as a clinic. There's also an equestrian structure and maintenance building that the applicant also intends to utilize, and there are no planned improvements to the facility. Next slide. Should Warriors Heart receive local approval of this special exception permit, the applicant will then need to acquire state and Department of Defense accreditation. The Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Development Services accreditation, along with the Department of Defense TRICARE accreditation, will provide for Joint Commission accreditation. Warriors Heart seeks this accreditation as the highest standard of treatment facility standards. Next slide. Comprehensive plan shows this area's rural preservation. This use is consistent with a special exception permit in the RP district, and this parcel is also surrounded by other rural preservation parcels. Next slide. Staff has offered the following suggested conditions for the case. No firearm training or firearm use associated with rehabilitation. The applicant shall not construct a firing range. Anyone voluntarily leaving the treatment facility shall be provided transportation to return to their residence. An emergency response plan shall be provided for fire rescue and the sheriff's department. Applicant shall maintain all required state and federal accreditation. The applicant shall have certified medical staff on site for 24 hours. Applicant shall have a minimum of 1 EMT certified staff on site for 24 hours. Delivery of supplies shall occur between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And road front signage shall be limited to 32 square feet of area, a maximum of 6 foot tall, and on a brick or masonry base. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation at this time?
We have prepared a presentation for the board, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to present.
Would you state your names for the record, please?
My name is Josh Lannon, Bowling Green District.
My name is Tom Spooner.
My name is Angel Lugo.
Thank you.
Let's start the presentation. Tom?
Just a little bit about myself. My name is Tom Spooner. I'm originally from a small town in South Florida. Joined the military in 1990. Immediately went to the Gulf War. From 1990 to 95, I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. In 1992, I struggled with alcoholism at a young age, and I got sober in 1992. So I spent the rest of my active duty career and to date being sober with this population. I spent 6 years in 7th Special Forces Group, and then I spent 10 years in Delta as an operator. Did 12 deployments, had 40 total months time in combat. Ended up getting traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress and recovering, and in the process of recovery from all those things. I've been working with the leadership team and with Warriors Heart for 8 years. I've been married for 32 years. I have 2 sons that are both serving on active duty at this time. I spent 30 years caring for this population on and off the battlefield. And it's what I'll do for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Angel Lugo. I am retired U.S. Army Colonel, healthcare management, healthcare operations. Happily married 34 years. So also my wife, Renee, who is also a retired U.S. Army officer. And I've been with Warriors Heart for about almost 6 years. My career has been focused on deployed medicine, including combat and Desert Storm and operational assignments. And a couple of my capstone jobs have been, I retired about 12 years ago, First was Chief of Staff COO of the Department of Defense program for psychological health and traumatic brain injury. And then last assignment that I had, capstone assignment, was as Chief of Staff COO of the Army's Northeast Region and Walter Reed Army Medical Center, which had quite a few soldiers in Wounded Warrior Brigade and Wounded Warrior units, where we treated them or transitioned them because of their invisible wounds. Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, my name is Josh Lannon. In 2001, my wife was working for Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I ran nightclubs. I was good at my job, but it took a toll on me. And she came home one night and gave me the ultimatum, said, Josh, you either go to rehab or I'm going to divorce you. And that was the lifeline I needed, a strong teammate, my wife, to give me that ultimatum because I couldn't fix the problem myself. I needed help. So I went into a program 2001, came out and knew that I no longer wanted to work in the nightclubs. I wanted to be a part of the solution. So since then, I've been in behavioral health care for over 21 years. I've been sober this entire time. Been with my wife for 28 years. Been married for, almost 22. And I say that because we are the population that will be bringing in the county and serving in the county. Our warriors, our protectors, those that have been on the front lines or are continuing to be on the front lines that need our help. We will be serving those that have served us. So that's a little bit about who we are in the leadership. Tom and I are partners in this in Warriors Heart, and we have been since day one. The picture that you see behind you is the facility in Bandera, Texas. We're very familiar with operating facility in a rural community. There's 900 people in Bandera County. I'm sorry, in Bandera City. County, there's about 20,000. We've been successful there for the last 8 years and treated over 2,300 warriors through our program. It's a voluntary program. It's not a lockdown. The warriors are with us because they've asked for help and they're seeking help, meaning that if they want to discharge from the program, we support them in that process. Of course, we're going to intervene and do interventions, try to talk them through it, but it's not like I'm hitting the road and leaving. We will support them in their decisions. Next slide. Angel, can you talk about the accreditation?
Absolutely. In Texas, Warriors Heart is licensed by the state of Texas. And in addition to that, we, on a voluntary basis, seek the nation's highest accreditation for healthcare organizations. And that's the gold seal, and that's the Joint Commission. Used to be called the Joint Commission for Healthcare Accreditation. We do that. We've gone through many surveys already and are in super great standing. We plan to do the same here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. First, we must have and will have the state's or the Commonwealth's Behavioral Health Department of Disability and Services license. And then we will also seek and obtain the Joint Commission's accreditation for healthcare organizations.
This is award that we won this year and from the Real Leaders 2023. We were recognized as one of the top 300 impact companies in the world. We're ranked number 5 in healthcare. I just share that with you. We were quite proud of it. Being an impact company, focuses on social issues, and we are leading and very focused in addressing these social needs of our warrior population. Next slide. Tom?
Yeah, this slide is just showing that one of the people in the pictures there is Gary Sinise. So we have national support, whether it's some Hollywood guys that we know, and but the biggest one, everybody usually knows what Gary Sinise, who he is, what he stands for, and who he supports. And the Sinise Foundation and many other foundations have been in support of Warriors Heart from day one and continues today.
Next slide, please. Yeah, continuation.
We are very actively involved in our community in Bandera. These are just some pictures of our community involvement. we would like the opportunity to also be involved as a positive influence in the community here. Next slide.
All right, now I'm up. Thanks, Josh. You know, you probably will ask, and many have asked us, why Virginia? Well, we were invited to come here. Warriors Heart has a major strategic national international goal of bringing 1 million warriors home. We know we cannot do that alone. We know we cannot do that with one facility. It will take a lot of collaboration with many of the organizations across the U.S. who are in that long battle, not against each other, but against addiction. To do that, we are going to do what we said we're going to do. We're expanding our facility from Texas. And we've been looking at many different states. Virginia reached out of the governor's office, reached out to us, hey, we've heard great things about you. Why don't you come to Virginia? And so one thing led to another, and we've been looking across the state for almost 2 years now. And long story short, we found a facility here in Caroline County that absolutely is the healing environment that we need to take care of our veterans, active duty military, and first responders. It's unbelievable the support we have received from the governor's office, from the Capitol, and from this county. One of those that has reached out to you, to the Board of Supervisors, and is presented in our packet here, is the Commission of Veterans Affairs. Josh?
I apologize for it's blurry, and I do not have my glasses. Could you just read just a little piece of that?
So the Commissioner, Daniel M. Gade, who is an injured, wounded veteran himself. Okay, yes. So he says the Virginia Department of Veterans Affairs emphatically supports Warriors Heart's imminent plans to acquire, establish, and operate the Warriors Healing Center in Caroline County. I ask for your support in expediting and favorably considering the county required applications for special exception for land use. The treatment, care, and services to be provided by Warriors Heart for our veterans, active duty military, and first responders aligns directly with Governor Youngkin's Right Help, Right Now behavioral health campaign. We're honored to provide them the opportunity to become members and employers for your community. Warriors Heart is the right help Virginia needs right now. Signed, Daniel M. Gade. Next slide, please. One of the things that we do in Warriors Heart in Texas and that we have been doing here in Caroline County is engaging the community. We had the opportunity through collaboration with some of our neighbors, with the county sheriff, to bring together sheriffs from the 3 counties. And you may know Sheriff Holden and Holderson from Essex and from King and Queen. And that's Louis, one of our outreach coordinators that also happens to be a sheriff in Texas. That engagement has carried across. Next slide, please. Since we've been here, we have attended church services. We've been met with the congregation. We have broken bread with our neighbors. So when we say we will do community engagement, we have. Some of these pictures are some of those events. Josh?
Yes, I'd like to point out that our neighbor Charles is sad. He did not get a Warriors Heart hat, so we will make sure you get one of those. Next slide. And with that, with the remaining 4 minutes, what I'd like to do is have you hear from one of our alumni. These are the gentlemen and women that are holding the challenge coin in their hand. They get that when they successfully complete our program. This time, I'd like to invite Shane up to the mic.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shane St. John. I served in the Army for 16 years. I served in 5th Special Forces Group. I got 8 combat deployments, total of 46 months combat deployment tours. I'm not really the best public speaker, so bear with me a little bit. when I came home, I was lost, I was broken, and I had multiple suicide attempts. When I left the military, I was addicted to pain pills because of my injuries. And I started drinking to kind of suppress my depression and pain that I was going through. I went through the VA, I went through multiple different treatment facilities, and nothing could work. And then I went to Warriors Heart. And when I got there, it just immediately felt like home. I could start relating to people that went through some of the same stuff that I went through. I just started feeling better. And one of the mottos is welcome home when you come there. And it did, it felt like home. And through all the individual treatments, the group therapies, everything that we've done, I've been able to rebuild my life a little bit, get back on track. And, you know, if it wasn't for Warriors Heart, honestly, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. I probably wouldn't be alive. So with that being said, I owe this organization my life. And when they offered the opportunity for me to come out and help them get this facility going, I jumped right on it. And yeah, it's a great organization. I've been physically part of giving back to the community where in Bandera, they would have like the Mardi Gras, the big event there. And a lot of us in the sober living house would go and clean up the town afterwards and just give back wherever we can. So, I mean, this is a great organization. That's all I have. Thank you.
That concludes our presentation, and thank you for your consideration of our approval.
Thank you, gentlemen. We probably will be calling you back up shortly. Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll now open a public hearing for comments from the public. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this special exception, come forward now. Please state your name and your voting district if you are a resident of Caroline.
My name is Charles Albert, Bowling Green District. I own the 50 acres that is adjacent to the north of the property here in question. Me and my wife have been there for 17 years, so we have seen the other three organizations that have come and gone from the property and have dealt with all the issues that have been associated with those three organizations. When these guys first showed up at our doorstep, I was skeptical, as I have been with the others. Remuda came in, promised a bunch of things, and none of that transpired. We actually had all kinds of problems with trespassing and other issues with them. Then ALA came in, Abundant Life Academy. Hey, we're taking troubled teens and we are providing them with a religious experience and getting them turned around. Okay, sounds great. Once again, not what happened. Same issues. We had trespassing issues. We had other problems. And of course, they are no longer part of this county. ISSO comes in. Really, they didn't do much of anything, to be honest with you. They barely used the property. Fortunately, because of them, we got to know the caretakers very well over there. So we got a very good understanding of the property. When Josh and Angel showed up at our door and started talking to us about what they were doing, it did strike home a little bit. Both my wife and I are both vets. We've both been fortunate that the demons that the people they're treating deal with, we've never had to have those problems. But I've I've served with several guys who have come back from combat, and it's a different world for them. And what Warriors Heart is doing is exactly what is needed. I've spent probably the last 2 or 3 months with these guys, not necessarily every day, but enough to get a good feel for them. And I just want to let you all know, and hopefully you'll pass this recommendation on up to the Board of Supervisors, that both my wife and I fully support this organization and think that it'll be a great benefit for the county. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening. My name is Michelle Chuning, and I'm the Bowling Green District. I live in the Sparta area of Caroline County. I'm here to support Warriors Heart and the mission they represent in helping those who fight on the front lines for our protection every day. A little bit about my history. I've been a paramedic for 20 years and worked for Caroline Fire and Rescue from 2003 to 2014. During that time, I ran calls for service that I still think about today. You can call that PTSD, and while I'll agree with that, I have a God who helps me deal with the struggles that I face every day. In 2007, though, I responded to a motor vehicle accident at 3:30 in the morning. I arrived to find my little brother, Robert, the victim to the wreckage, and it rocked me to the core. I had the task of telling my parents that their baby boy wouldn't be coming home a couple hours later. For at least the next 6 months, I was in a fog. Like nothing seemed normal. It's not something I could explain. It just wasn't normal. When I returned to work a few weeks after the crash, the anxiety was horrible. The sound of the tones triggered thoughts and emotions that were so overwhelming that I sometimes couldn't move. I don't share this to make you feel sad or sorry for me. This is what those who work in the field face day in and day out. While it isn't always this personal, it's always personal. We hold on to the ones we couldn't save. We wear it on our sleeves like a tattoo that's permanent. Fortunately for me, I didn't turn to alcohol or drugs or to anything else to heal my scars. But they're still there, and sometimes I can still be triggered by a sound, a smell, or even just the flash of a memory. Warriors Heart is here to help those who struggle with scars. In a time when hospitals are so overrun with things, the ones that sacrifice the most for our safety are neglected. For our veterans, if you talk to them, most will tell you that while the VA tries to help, there's just too much trauma for them to help everyone. The suicide rate is astronomical. For fire, rescue, and police, the suicide rates are increasing with the increased stress of the job. You can search out and see how counties close to us, like Henrico and Spotsylvania, are dealing with loss of their heroes to suicide. I'm not employed by Warriors Heart, but I will in some capacity be involved there, even if only to volunteer. I believe them when they say their mission is to help bring 1 million warriors home. Warriors healing warriors and gaining strength through healing. I felt an overwhelming peace and desire to be involved when I first walked through their doors. They are sincere. They're here to offer help and healing, and the benefit to our community cannot be measured. Go talk to them and see for yourself. Support them. The future of our heroes here and abroad depends on a place like this, so that they can serve, protect, and still come home to live a life full beyond the battlefield. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Shane Whitaker. I'm in the Bowling Green District. I am a disabled veteran. I have grown up in Caroline, went to school in Caroline. I'm a member of Caroline. Joined the Army in 2018. Got hurt in the Army in 2019, where it was, I can't feel my feet any longer. Went through many different battles myself, and first thing is I'd like to say is I wish that I had met this group a lot sooner. Men and women that have fought for this country have sacrificed themselves for me and you. For this country, they've sacrificed their blood, their sweat, their tears, their life, their limb. The same warriors that had to call their families from thousands of miles away or didn't come home at all, while we could sit home and be safely with ours. But these beautiful freedoms that we overlook every day, these sacrifices, they didn't come free. It has taken a toll on the men and women that have fought for our freedoms. They have left scars that are deeper than the surface. I believe people don't resonate with what you do. They resonate with why you do it. So I ask you to think back to someone that you know that had made served. Maybe that was your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, someone you care about, and how deeply you care about them. These are men and women, warriors that are just like them, that are mother and fathers that need help from other warriors that lived and understand their pain and can help them heal. And that is Warriors Heart's reason. They understand that these warriors have fought for us and what we believe in. In return, when they call out for help, we will fight for them and for what they stand for. So for that, I stand with them and I pray for their new home in Caroline. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Anyone else wishing to speak? And sir, before you speak, I would like to ask Mr. McKenzie, the gentleman at the podium now is my pastor. I don't know if I should excuse myself from the stage since there's not going to be any interaction. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. My
Proceed.
name is Doug Duty from the Bowling Green District. I'm a 13-year Army veteran, but that is not why I speak in strong support of Warriors Heart. I have two sons, one who left law enforcement after 10 years and one who will retire from the Army in 2. Both of them suffer some level of PTSD and have required medication and counseling. I have personally had to witness my sons have episodes from their trauma, from their experiences. My son, as a SWAT officer, experienced things from being in a multi-shooter firefight to performing CPR on a 6-month-old who died in his arms. It took its toll. I had to listen on phone calls as he sobbed and telling me he didn't want to be here anymore. I thank God he got the treatment he needs, but it came out of his own pocket. I have one son who spent 12 months in combat in Afghanistan, as well as 5 long deployments to Iraq with the 5th Special Forces Group. While in the backyard one evening, I watched as he was on his hands and knees dry heaving after a large cloud of black smoke from a fire pit engulfed him. After 30 minutes of being face down in the grass, he told me he thought he was okay, but he'd had a flashback. I asked about what, and he reluctantly said it was from going into a burning Black Hawk helicopter to retrieve the charred bodies of fellow soldiers. I thank God he is receiving the treatment he needs. Admittedly, I have only seen a small fraction of what other parents, spouses, and families have seen and heard. In a few short days, we will gather on the courthouse lawn and mourn the loss of 1 million service members, many who have taken their own life because of what we asked of them. What better way to memorialize them than to care for the fellow soldiers who had to watch them die? I believe that Warriors Heart can make a difference by preventing further loss and restoring lives that will be both powerful and inspiring. The impact of such an organization can indeed be immeasurable, not only for the individuals they directly help, but also for their families and loved ones who bear witness to their pain. I truly hope that Warriors Heart finds a warm, welcome home in Caroline County, where it can provide the much needed support and care for active duty, veterans, and first responders who are grappling with PTSD and related challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Rita Bell-Mott, AKA Belmonte, Mattaponi District. This is such a blessing. The pastor said it all. But I want to give my condolences to Mrs. Chuning, and I want to thank you for your service. And I want to thank every service member here for their service. We need this. And I thank everyone in Caroline County, Virginia, who has opened their heart and their minds to bring this organization here. I've come from a family of veterans. I've seen some things. They were not treated or healed. Aside from that, they do risk their lives. They deserve it. Every single one, anybody that can get into this program. Thank you all so very much, Warriors Heart, for wanting to even come here. Please, let's approve this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against? Anyone else wishing to speak? Third and final call, anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one coming forward, the public hearing is closed. I do believe, just for the record, that that is the first time we've had an issue come before us where we didn't have anyone speak against it. So thank you, whoever is responsible. With that, would the applicant care to come forward, please? Or applicants, I'll say. Members of the commission, do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
sir.
had a question why Caroline, but they answered that. Delivery date, delivery time, excuse me. Why 7:30? Can it be at 4 o'clock? 7 to 4? Why 7:30? I know that's being picky, but I just want to,
That was a recommendation from planning.
That was just a staff recommendation. So we just suggested 7 a.m. to 7:30. You're more than welcome to change those conditions. They didn't have a specified delivery time. But I don't know that they would have a problem meeting 7 to 4:30 delivery times.
Yeah, it would be difficult for us to tell Amazon or Cisco or delivery of when to come or not to come. Sometimes it's a wild card. We ask that it be extended a little bit broader because we are in a rural community. We're not in the city, so it have a low impact.
by the time change, it'll be dark.
Yes,
I
sir.
just had a concern with that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question of the commissioners?
I don't have a question. I have a comment. I did visit the facility and was impressed. And so I had all my questions answered, I think. But with the rise of various types of behavioral illnesses in our country and actually around the world, I think we're greatly in need of identifying these problems that people can have, in particular PTSD from job-related issues. And I think we need to start identifying these issues and find new and better ways of treating them. And I think facility would represent one of those ways.
Thank you, Dr. Horton. Anyone else? Mr. Young?
Yes, I saw in here you have you're proposing an emergency action plan. Are you guys going to submit that, or do you have it together already?
Mr. Young, so that was a suggested condition by the planning department. Should you motion to approve with that condition, it would be the applicant's job to provide an emergency response plan to fire rescue and to the sheriff's department for them to review and comment on and make adjustments if necessary. But they would be in charge of providing that plan to the fire department and sheriff's office.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Since we are speaking of the emergency response plan, that was one thing I was going to ask is if a plan with law enforcement, EMS, and fire has been developed as yet.
Mr. Schwartz, so we will have a plan already developed for our Texas facility, and the Virginia state licensing requirement asks for such a plan. The Joint Commission on Accreditation absolutely has a standard that we have an emergency response plan, and the standards include collaboration with local and area authorities that provide emergency response, and we absolutely will do that.
Okay, well, because one thing that struck me was at your entrance, it's gated, and there are 3 stone pillars. I didn't know whether maybe fire truck or an ambulance may have a difficulty going through there. I didn't know if Chief Loftus or anyone else had already viewed the site. So that was one of my concerns.
May I respond to that?
Yes, sir.
So Chief Loftus and his fire and rescue captain have been out to our facility along with the sheriff. And that was not an issue that has been identified, as you may recall stated earlier by planning. This location has been a treatment facility in the past. And my discussions with fire and rescue is that emergency response vehicles will not have an issue with coming in and out of our facility. And in addition to that, at the appropriate time, understanding the county's permit requirements, we have plans to provide a wider entrance to the facility
If it's needed.
if it's needed. But we also have a
I don't want you
standard- yeah.
going to any additional expense if it's not necessary.
So for fire emergency and response, it is not necessary.
Very good. That
But we have standards, sir, where we do understand one of our standards is having a healing environment, a welcoming environment, and therefore we do have plans and have standards to have a wider entrance.
okay. Very good. One of the questions that did pop to my mind in going over your information is why Virginia, and to put it bluntly, who invited you? But that has been answered by way of a letter from Mr. Gade and from your presentation. So I'm not even going to go who invited you. As awful as it sounds, like who invited you to this party? But you're a private, licensed, and accredited resort-style healing center. There is a cost involved in that, in doing what you're doing. I would assume that for active and veteran military, that TRICARE is probably involved in the payment. You are also opening yourself up to law enforcement, EMS, and first responders. I don't know that they are covered by TRICARE or not, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to get into the business end, but how do you keep from coming up short in helping non-military people?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, with active duty and retired veterans, either medically or, over 20 years, retired TRICARE covers down on the majority of that. And Tri-West and covers down on the VA piece of it. For our first responders and other warriors that don't have benefits, that's also why we have foundations that provide. One of the things that we're super proud of as Warriors Heart is that there has not ever been a warrior not receive treatment because of payment. Whether that has come from insurance companies, outside sources, or other adjustments that we need to make in the business model, we treat them. They get treated.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Now, this special exemption is going, as I understand it, it's going to be required prior to any state or DOD accreditation. Is that correct? So I just want to make sure I understand the step process you're going to have to go through.
That is correct. We would get the special exception, then we would apply with the state for a license, then we would apply voluntarily for our joint commission accreditation and the DOD contract. So we have many layers of licensing and accreditation boards to go through.
And if there were a clause in the special exception, not to hinder you, but if for some unknown reason you fail to get or you lose the accreditation, then that puts you in default on the special exception, and maybe someone else can answer, what do we do then? Shouldn't you be given a time period to come back and apply compliance with an accreditation? I don't know how that's going to work, because I don't want to see it being automatic default.
Thank you for that. Because the accreditation is a voluntary board where we volunteer to apply for those standards. If we lost our accreditation, we would still be licensed by the state of Virginia to conduct business. However, we would not be qualified to work with the US government and the DoD. So maintaining the qualifications or accreditation is extremely important to us.
You mentioned in your packet about the economic impact of property tax. Am I given to, since you're no longer going to be a religious retreat, that Warriors Heart is now going to have to start paying property tax?
We will,
Okay.
yes.
I just wanted to make sure I was clear in my mind.
Yes,
of
sir.
that. Okay. You, in your community facilities section, I believe, and in Banderas County, I believe you probably have had situations where 911 has had to be called for one reason or the other. What type of emergency calls do you anticipate possibly needing at this location?
We typically see more EMS calls, medical needs, than we do any type of 911 physical. It's more medical by far.
Right.
Seizures would be one. A fall would be another. Accident, hard time breathing would be our typical calls.
Okay. That would be anticipated.
Yes.
I noticed in your conditions, and you have discussed firearms on premises. Your clients, as I understand it, most of them will fly in and be picked up at the airport. Wouldn't there be some, for example, who are Virginia-based that may opt to drive to your facility?
Absolutely. We have clients that fly in, we have warriors that drive in, and we have warriors that are dropped off. And some are still active duty or on the job. So we do have, at time to time, a warrior that would arrive at our facility with their duty weapon. For whatever reason, they did not want to leave it home. They didn't feel comfortable traveling without it. So at that time, we secure it in an armory, and at discharge, when we give them back their weapon, they do not get any ammunition. So we confiscate and destroy the ammunition.
Great. I'm a big 2A supporter. Don't get me wrong, but I know that especially law enforcement, it can be hard for us to divorce ourselves from.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I just believe that some of your clients would be driving in. You're going to search the vehicles, or what your process would be.
We do. There's a full intake onboarding process. There's a vehicle search. We search their belongings. We have them empty out their pockets because we're looking for all the way to a small pill to a weapon. Our warriors use weapons as tools. It's common to have a pocket knife, that sort of thing.
Right.
And we hold that in our inventory and in our armory for them at discharge.
Okay, thank you. There was also some recommendation or suggestions that were made by, and by the way, I love your planning schedule. I went out there Monday evening and I was in awe of the facilities and the people. And I really got to looking at their daily planner. There's no downtime. I mean, if folks go through this schedule, they're going to be too busy to get in trouble. But it did have, and if you will bear with me, I'm getting to it now. some of the comments that were made on your review form, I'll just bring it up. Have you contacted a professional engineer to work in consultation on the on-site soil evaluator to determine the existing sewage disposal systems can handle the sewage strength and flow of the proposed use? In other words, have you had the sewer system checked out?
Not in depth. With the engineers, that recommendation has asked for, because the facility was operated as a facility, a treatment center in the past with 100+ residents. So we have not, that was the first, today is actually the first time I saw that recommendation.
Okay. And
I will say that when our due diligence to acquire the property, the systems did check out.
and I'm sure they did because it had to pass an inspection to begin
Yes.
with. There was something in here about contacting Scott Widener, Ellis, for the food program with Caroline Health Department.
We've reached out a number of times. We will continue to reach out, and absolutely, we will get a health department license.
And contact the Office of the Drinking Water, ODW, in Richmond to check, has that been done?
It has.
That has. Have they given you any documentation saying everything is satisfactory?
Not yet. The prior owners did not have, they did not follow those recommendations, so we're starting kind of from scratch with that.
All right. Before this goes to the Board of Supervisors, I just want to make sure that all of your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. I want you to be in the strongest position possible. I think it would be beneficial. I think two of our commissioners have not done a site visit. Is that correct, Mr. Pennington? Two of us have not.
Mr. Young has not gone, Mr. Minor has not gone, and Mr. Weaver has not gone.
Okay. I think it would be very beneficial if you do. And other than the suggestions that we just went over to put you at the top to go along with a site visit by the remaining, I don't want to delay you 1 minute, but I want to put you at the top. I don't want any questions to not be answered going forward. I stand behind what y'all are doing 100%. I don't think anyone on this panel would be less than 100%. God bless you for what you're doing. But I want to do it the right way. You've got a tremendous backing.
Very,
So-
very well said, Mr. Chairman. I too, I'm sorry that I did miss it, gentlemen. Okay. But I would say anytime from Tuesday on, if you want to make a site visit, count me in anytime. I agree. Let's move this as quickly as we can, but make sure that all the Ts are crossed and all the Is are dotted. Agreed, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir,
just to let you know, the Office of Drinking Water certification and the Health Department food certification and the septic tank certification are things that the county, that we will check at the certificate of occupancy.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last.
Those are things that are required at the certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
Once everything's been approved. Just wanted to let you know that.
So once the special exception is approved by the board, will they still have to do building inspections and so forth?
They'll have to do building inspections and receive a certificate of occupancy. The certificate of occupancy is not released until the Office of Drinking Water, the Health Department Food Services, and the AOSE work for the Health Department is done.
Very good. I just want these folks to have every bit of ammunition available. Okay? Thank you, gentlemen, and God bless you.
Thank you. Can I ask?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Would you be voting on a recommendation for approval at this time? How does the process work?
Yeah, we'll need a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And myself and the rest of the commissioners, we're going to discuss that in about 30 seconds.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, one and all. Commissioners, I would like nothing more than to push this forward the way that it is. However, I think that, I don't know, I think the rest of us that have not been need to go.
Mr. Chair, that's exactly what I said to you. Stand totally behind the description you just said. I would like to move this along in the right direction with all the Ts crossed and all the Is dotted as quickly as we can. But I beg to be able to go out and look at this site if I may. And I'm sorry I missed the last one. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I don't really like doing it, but I'm going to ask that we defer this until our next regular meeting so that we can accomplish everything we need to do. I know that a site visit is not required, but I would feel better within myself that we do it.
I think that's a good motion, Mr. Chair. The reason I say that is because in case anything else comes up from the commissioners, okay? From the general public speaking out that maybe there's something we missed. I want to push this through in the right direction as quickly as we can, but I also would like not to make any mistakes along the way. Because usually when you move quickly, you forget something. So please, I know it's 30 days, and I'm sorry, gentlemen, and it's not that I'm not in favor of what you're doing. I just think I prefer to push it off for 30 days if I may. Thank you.
So I made a motion. That motion can either die for the lack of a second, or it can die for the lack of a majority vote.
I would second that motion, sir.
Motion has been made, seconded by Mr. Weaver, and I think Mr. Young also seconded. All those in favor of deferring until next month signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? There being no opposition, the motion carries. Thank you, one and all, for your appearance here tonight. Godspeed and carry forward. We will take this up and make a proper motion at our next meeting. And everybody's looking at me dumbfounded. Okay. I don't like it, but I think that's the proper thing to do. Thank you, one and all. We will continue on. See. I done lost my daggone sheet again. for me. RZ 01-2023, Woodlawn Belmont LLC owner, Burley Residential Land LLC applicant. Mr. Hughes.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. As you know, this is a request of Woodlawn/Belmont LLC and Burley Residential Land LLC for an amendment to the proffers approved with case RZ 11-2007 that was approved in October 2008. The subject parcel is currently zoned PRD, Planned Residential Development, and identified as tax parcel 83-A-1. RZ 11-2007 was approved with the development of a total of 576 units consisting of 227 single-family homes, 44 villas, 72 age-restricted units, and 183 townhomes with proffers. In 2001, a request to amend the proffers was denied by the Board of Supervisors. Next slide. This is an image of the subject parcel highlighted in red with the star. The Belmont subdivision and Belmont West subdivisions border the subject parcel to the west, Moncourt Drive to the north, and an active farming operation adjacent to the parcel to the east and south. Belmont was approved with 306 or has 306 dwelling units, a mix of single family, detached, and townhomes, and is built out. Belmont West was approved with 329 units, 3 single family detached units, 62 townhomes, and 264 multifamily units that have yet to be constructed. This image also shows the existing transportation network to include the existing interparcel connections located within the Belmont subdivision there adjacent to the parcel on the western boundary. It also shows Moncourt Drive to the north, Route 716, and then also shows the access points to the Belmont subdivision there at 207, and then also a proposed or future connection to a commercial area identified that was approved at the intersection of Enterprise Drive and 207 in the slide there. This is a zoning map that shows the predominant zoning of the area. The purple is the planned residential development and the red is the commercial. The 2030 comprehensive plan designates this area as part of the Carmel Church Community Plan area. This area is a focal point for economic activity in the county with a mix of commercial types that serve local residents and travelers. This proposal is consistent with the vision of the plan area and the existing development pattern with a continuation of a mix of residential housing types. The proposed layout of the district neighborhood identified by respective housing types, consistent housing types, I should say, of single family attached and single family detached adjacent to one another. They include attached villas, townhomes, and keep the compatible residential uses adjacent to one another. The prior rezoning of Belmont did provide the land area, a land area reserved for commercial, which is identified there in the red area along the frontage there. Next slide. This is the original GDP that was approved for the development of the 227 single-family homes, the 44 villas, and the 72 residential age-restricted units, and the 183 townhomes with the proffers. This GDP does show the internal road network when it was approved as a 4-lane highway stretching from Moncourt Drive south down to the parcel's southern boundary, next to the H there in the map. Go back. So what's also to note is when you see the next GDP that the applicant is proposing, it's very similar to what is on the screen there. It's just a different mix of housing types, but the GDP does not stray a lot from what was originally approved. Next slide. So this is a page from the applicant's GDP that depicts the proposed layout. Area A represents the location of the townhome. Areas B, D, and E, and F represent single-family detached units, and Area C represents the location of villas. The area shaded in green in the middle between B and F represents their recreational area. The applicant has proffered a clubhouse, outdoor swimming pool, 2 tennis courts, a volleyball court, and a multi-use field. The proffers include a provision that allows the owners of the Belmont neighborhood, the current Belmont neighborhood, to use the recreation amenities for a reasonable fee set by the new HOA of Belmont North. The orange area along the internal road, which is now shown as a 2-lane road, is right away being dedicated by the applicant in case at some point in the future the road is to be expanded. Staff did make several comments regarding the proposed transportation improvements, and the applicant has indicated they are willing to consider amending the GDP and proffers to address staff and VDOT's concerns. And I would say this GDP is a little different than the GDP you have in your packet, because in an effort to show their willingness to attempt to address staff's concerns, they updated the GDP and have made some amendments. And those would include the inclusion of a full turn lane on Moncor Drive into the site. And they also have removed one of the entrance points on what is the new Drawbridge Road to minimize the access cuts along that road. That was a comment from VDOT. Excuse me. The proffers limit the number of building permits that may be applied for annually to 150 for years 1 through 3, leaving 76 in year 4. Next slide. The applicant has submitted a proffer statement with the amended proffers, and as noted in the staff report, the staff had offered comments on each of the proposed amendments. The applicant's representative will have a presentation that will go into greater detail on each of those amendments tonight as well. Probably the most significant or a significant amendment in the request is the proffer related to public safety. The case was approved with a commitment to construct and set aside a parcel for a 7,000 square foot public safety building. Because the project did not move forward, the county has or is in the process of constructing that facility, and the applicant, in an attempt to honor that commitment, is now offering to contribute cash in an amount of $2.5 million to offset the public safety building capital costs to be paid in 3 payments. The first payment is with the issuance of the first building permit. The second payment of $750,000 is in 18 months or after the initial payment, or at the time of the issuance of the 150 building permit. And the final payment of $750,000 is 18 months after the second payment, or with the issuance of the 300th building permit, or whichever is later. The applicant is also proffering $400,000 towards future capital school needs, $250,000 for future transportation improvements, and a $253,000 payment to support education at the community college level. One thing I need to note that I think in the I know in the staff report, I misunderstood the applicant's intent as it was related to the proffer. And I think in the staff report, I noted that there would be a proffer of $21,000 per unit. And that's not actually the case. That $21,000 that I noted is actually a value that the applicant placed on the proffer amounts in terms of their credit. So I'm sure Ms. Neal will address that a little bit as well. So the estimated payment or the actual per unit cost or per unit proffer is $2,279 per unit. As noted, applicant has provided staff with comments, and as VDOT has provided staff with comments, and the applicant has indicated some willingness to address those comments. The applicant did indeed prepare a transportation impact analysis with this case, and that analysis indicated that this project would have minimal impact on the transportation network. This concludes my remarks. The applicant is present and has a presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Commissioners, any questions from Mr. Hughes? The applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members
evening.
of the commission. It's nice to see you. My name is Ann Neal Cosby. I'm a land use attorney with Wire Gill, and I'm pleased to be here representing Burley Residential Land LLC, the applicant related to Belmont North. And I have the project team with me, Ken Newell and Jim Bonnell with the company. We also have Bruce Reese with Legacy Engineering and Carl Holgren with Traffic. So I think we've got everybody. Yeah. So if you have any questions, we want to be able to answer those fully and completely. So we've brought everybody here to try to do that tonight. I would like to point out this, just to make it clear, and I appreciate Mr. Hughes' presentation, and he's been wonderful to work with. I know with him being new and coming into this application in particular, Belmont at Carmel Church and Belmont North were originally approved for zoning in 2008. So he had, it was a big rezoning then, and it had lots of different types of proffers. It was a different environment, and so he's trying to play catch up and weed through these proffer amendments. So we truly appreciate his help, and also Mr. Fincham. So I would like to go through the proffer amendments because, again, Belmont North, as you may all know, it was approved, so the zoning and the proffers are in place. And they were significant proffers that were negotiated by the Planning Commission and the board at that time. And as we'll talk about, what we're asking is just to, in a very limited manner, frankly, just bring those proffers sort of into the present. The county has changed. The county's needs have changed. There were a lot of, fiscal and capital improvements, frankly, that were baked into these proffers that really the county doesn't need those anymore. School needs have changed. The public safety building, as Mr. Hughes has said, has been built. So what can we do to come in and provide proffers that are, equivalent in value or better, but also meet the county needs? And so that's what I just want to go through, because they're really fairly minimal changes to the actual project. It's similar. I think Mr. Hughes indicated, if you compare the GDPs, it's very similar. It's just trying to bring it forward. So with that, if we can have the next slide. As Mr. Hughes said, the original application was submitted back in 2007. So, development was booming in the county at the time, if you all remember. So things were very different. The Board of Supervisors approved the rezoning October 9th, 2008. And again, they accepted a very extensive menu of proffers that were based on a fiscal analysis of the anticipated demands on county services and infrastructure at the time. Most developments were doing that, and it addressed density and housing types because people were building very quickly. So I think the county was worried, don't build too fast because we can't keep up with this demand at the time. There were some limited uses. Of course, utilities was an issue, transportation, always an issue. The site development, that's really the timing of the build out. Recreational amenities, very important, because as Mr. Hughes said, the recreational amenities for this development will be made available to the Belmont at Carmel Church residents. And so this is something I think those residents have been waiting for a really long time. So we're happy to be able to bring that forward. Some minimal changes to drainage and really, a fiscal sort of reworking of the proffers. So I'll just go through this. It sounds like that's what the proffers had at the time, and I'm going to go through what the changes are that are being proposed. To the next slide, the reason that nothing has happened for so long is right after this this wonderful application with all of these really juicy proffers was approved, boom, the economy went into the Great Recession and everything stopped. I don't have to tell you, how bad it was. Are we out of that fully, is development coming back? I would say no. But nevertheless, the county moved on. The county had changes, as I said, they've met their needs for the residents. But the property has remained subject to those same proffers for all these years. So anybody that wants to develop it, would have to either build in conformance with the proffers or get a proffer amendment. And as you heard back in 2021, there was an applicant, not us, that came before the Planning Commission and the board with a different application with different treatment of the proffers. And the board ultimately did not accept that application. So we looked very closely at, well, what can we do that's different and better? And I think what we've tried to do, again, is bring forth a proffer package, particularly fiscally, that meets or exceeds those values. So we can comfortably say, where we're suggesting a different proffer, it's a better value or an equivalent value and something that the county needs now versus 2008. So with that, I'll go through, and Mr. Hughes touched on some of these. So the next slide is, I think I've just explained that we're proposing this, the proffer amendment to update the proffers. We did update the traffic analysis. As you've heard, there was an original traffic analysis that was done in 2008. Over the years, there hasn't been a necessity for a new traffic impact analysis per se. What has been requested and accepted are having traffic engineers, and again, Mr. Holgren is here, to reanalyze those traffic analyses and provide comments, and that's what's happened. So we've brought the transportation analysis forward, if you will. VDOT has proposed comments, and I would suggest to you, we've addressed all of VDOT's comments. There haven't been that many, frankly, because not a lot has changed, but we've addressed the traffic, and we've given the valuation of the improvements that are based on, in 2008, staff prepared a valuation, and we kind of tried to mimic, that valuation. We've also used sort of a conservative tool in our evaluation. So if anything, I think we would all, with staff, agree that if more current tools are used, our values would be even higher. So we're not going that far. We're comfortable with the tools that we've used. And I can answer questions on that, but I don't know that we'll get there. So the next slide, so certainly one proffer amendment is that we are asking that the GDP be updated because the proffers require, usually they do, development consistent with the GDP. So as Mr. Hughes indicated, the roads are slightly shifted, and some of the dwelling units location are a little different. On the next slide is the GDP. And again, it's the northern property. This is the GDP for both Belmont North, which is really the green area, and Belmont at Carmel Church. They're different developments. So when we look at Belmont at Carmel Church that's been built and the commercial areas, yes, in 2008, they came in, but that's done. That's somebody completely different. We have no control over any of those lands. That's not us. The only issue before you tonight is sort of that northern triangular piece. So I just wanted to make that clear. And it's kind of hard to tell, but again, the recreational amenities are roughly in the same area, and the locations of the residential dwellings, and then the transportation network. So the next slide, one change, which is a slight change. The total number of dwelling units are proffered not to exceed 526. We are not requesting any additional units, but at the time there were 72 age-restricted villas. And at the time, of course, again, there was a great concern about over having too many children in the school system. So having an age-restricted product was very important at that time. Now we are asking that the age-restricted villas, be removed and the building types be spread out a little bit more. So the only difference is, that the villas that were age-restricted are no longer age-restricted, and then the number of villa types, have been dispersed around, and I'll get to a slide on that. I know there was some concern from staff in the staff report that maybe the age restriction would have adverse impacts on schools and or transportation. The age restricted, when the project was approved in 2008, there was a $10,500 credit given at the time for the age restriction because there wouldn't be the impacts of schools. We built that back in. So we've added in $10,500 into our valuations for those villas. So to the extent, there was a credit for the school impact, we've given that back. So I think we've fully compensated, at least value-wise, for that credit. With regard to transportation, the traffic impacts that Gaurav Slade conducted included the full transportation, including the non-age restricted villas. And so the conclusion of their report was that there wouldn't be a significant or substantial impact on the transportation operations, any different than the original traffic impact analysis. So we did look at that, and we can answer that the schools and transportation shouldn't be adversely affected by just that one amendment. On the next slide, you can see, maybe the next slide. There it goes. The original proffers had 227 single family. Now we're asking for 284. The villas, asking for 52 unrestricted, and that was 116, including the 72 restricted. And then the townhomes were asking for 190 instead of 183. So again, it's not any more, it's just spread out a little bit, a little differently. So that's the only change there, and there shouldn't be any impact on county services. Moving on, the next change that we're requesting, this is really one, it's a little complicated, but really is one of those things that I think is a minimal request. The original proffers had a utility payment, an upfront utility payment of 1.1 million that then would be credited back through permit fees. And I think today, county staff has said, we would not want that. We just want the money to come in with the utility fees, or with the building permit. So in other words, you pay for your connection like everybody else when the house gets built. And so based on discussions with county staff, there's no longer any need for the upfront payment. So we're taking that out, and staff has agreed that that would be hard to administer. They prefer it the way we've amended it. So that's the utility change. There was also a water and sewer stub that was proffered, which again, in talking with staff, there's been a request, that nowadays there have been complaints about that. So the preference is that it be removed. So we're removing it just for that reason. So those are the utility proffer changes. And moving on, transportation, there was a question originally with staff about the turning lane from Moncure Drive onto Dry Bridge Road. And we've agreed that it should be a full turning lane. I think it was mostly just a little bit vague in our proffers. So I think we've satisfied staff just on the language there. As with the original proffers, that will construct such additional transportation improvements, to meet VDOT standards. I mean, we know we're going to have to meet VDOT standards for improvements caused by our traffic. So that was in the proffers, and that hasn't changed. One thing also that hasn't changed, but I just want to state publicly on the record, construction traffic may not use McDuff Drive or access the property through the Belmont at Carmel Church subdivision. And that was a concern of the neighbors. It's always been a concern. And so construction traffic cannot go through that adjacent property. So that was the proffer then, and that has not changed. The next slide, This is one that is probably one of the more interesting proffers over time. And originally, the Dry Bridge Road, which bisects this property, was the original proffers had it being a 4-lane roadway. And at the time, I think VDOT and staff had said, we really are not convinced that it really needs 4 lanes, but nevertheless, it was 2008, so 4 lanes was proffered. And
Ms.
so as
Cosby-
we
Ms.
come
Cosby,
forward,
Can we ask you to wrap up?
oh, shoot. Mr. Chairman, may I have another 5 minutes? Thank you. Only because I want you to understand, I'm very sorry. So the 4 lanes, we're suggesting 2 lanes because that's what I think VDOT and staff believe is, and we believe is necessary and what the traffic studies show. But what we would do is provide an area north of Dry Bridge to dedicate to the county and rough grade it for the future widening of 2 4 lanes by, if another need requires that, the 4 lane, somebody else could build about, we would give the land there. And we would also give $250,000 towards construction of that. So again, the 4 lanes, we don't believe is warranted. It really wasn't at the time, but we're wanting to address the county's concerns there. So that is a more a difference. The next slide. There was in the original proffers also at the other end, if you will, of Dry Bridge on the eastern side, there was a proffer that the applicant would construct an extension, a little stub, if you will, of Dry Bridge across an intervening parcel, the Terrell property, which is that big farm that comes down, just to the western edge of the Flippo tract, which is another intervening parcel before you hit 207. So it was essentially just, we will construct at our cost, this little segment of Dry Bridge Road. If the county, we didn't have the right of way, if the Terrells came in and said, we'll give you the right of way, or the county otherwise acquired it. So we have said the same thing, that if those right of way become available and if we are in construction of that road, we'll do the same thing. So the language is slightly different in the revised proffer, but it's the same thing. Proffer 24, there was money available to support Fred Transit. That's no longer, something in the county. So we're replacing it with a cash proffer of $250,000 for transit needs. The next slide. We've just updated that building permit schedule. So it's still the same phasing, if you will, of issuance of building permits, but it's just brought up to date. So again, no change there. One change that I think is very beneficial, that actually is very helpful. We've moved up construction of all of those amenities, the outdoor swimming pool, tennis courts, volleyball, multi-purpose fields. It was that they'd be built at the 300th building permit start construction. We've moved that up to 150 because we know that that's been something the neighbors have been wanting. And so we've heard that. We want very much to be good neighbors and move that forward. The same thing, there are other trails and picnic and public spaces. And those, instead of being built with land-based C, which is likely further down the road, would also be with the 150th building permit. So trying to get the amenities for everybody to use more quickly. The next slide is, there was a proffer of $500 for education at the time of building permit. And instead of doing that, we're just providing a straight cash proffer, an equivalent of $253,000 to be used for education. And I think at the time it was $500 to be used towards Germanna. Again, we want it to be less restrictive for the county to use. So we're just instead proffering the monies. So it's an equivalent give there. The next slide is public safety. The applicant was originally required to construct a public safety building. Since that time, the county's already designed and funded that. So what we're offering, and Mr. Hughes talked about it, is 2.5 million to the county, and that's $1 million paid at the issuance of the first building permit, 750 paid later, and then again, a third payment of 750,000. So that money comes in up front. So again, that's the equivalent there. The next slide is there was the need for, the original parcels had the applicant finding and locating a parcel of land for a school and then conveying it to the county, not to build it, but just find this random parcel. Instead, we've looked at that and are offering a contribution of $400,000 to the county to use as it wants for public schools. They can find the site, they can do it, they can use it, whatever they want. So it's unencumbered monies. The next proffer, so total, so really the main changes are fiscal. The total value of the original proffers was $8,939,606. And currently the value, and that's cash and credit, $10,736. So thank you for the additional time, Mr. Chairman. I know that's a lot of information. The key is just the changes are not that great for the development. It's just bringing them forward. So we're here to ask any questions, but we would ask for consideration and hopefully a vote to move it forward tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cosby. A lot of information to digest. Mr. Hughes, if you please, sir.
Mr. Chair, could I just remind you to open the public hearing?
That's right. I'm trying to put the cart before the horse. Mr. Hughes, I just called you up here to ask if you would have a seat, please. We'll now open the public hearing for comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter, come forward. Public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this matter, come forward. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. Seeing no one coming forward, the public hearing is closed. Now, Mr. Hughes, if you would be so kind. Commissioners, any questions of staff?
I have a few, because it's a lot to digest in one sitting. And I may need to see some of the property because I haven't actually driven into Belmont for a while. But the 4-lane road going down to 2 lanes, why does staff think that's better?
So I think originally in 2007, the thought was that this could potentially be a road that would extend north across to McDuff and continue north across, eventually across 95, and then extend south down to Route 207. So you would essentially have another north-south connector, 207 extending north through this project, across Moncourt, and then north along McDuff, continuing north across 95 back out to Route 1. The Moncourt actually comes out to 207. And so that connection is still available. There's still an opportunity to have from 207 eventually to travel up to across 95. That is available today. the applicant does not control the land that would be needed to connect to 207. And so if you brought Dry Bridge out to 207, you would need extensive, you wouldn't have to acquire the land, and there would be extensive improvements done. VDOT at this point is relying on a study that they did, the 207-301 study, and that study calls for innovative intersections at along 207. The county's major priority at 207 at this point are improvements to Dry Bridge, but on the south side of Dry Bridge to allow the industrial users on that side to be able to access 207 a lot easier. The other component of this case is when this case was developed way back in 2008 or 7, there was some forethought given to the transportation connections, and there was a right of way from the commercial project into the residential component of this project. The applicant has indicated they don't control that land, which is correct, but that access point comes to Enterprise Drive, which is a signalized intersection. So from my perspective, if there's going to be a transportation improvement to connect any part of this project to 207, at a signalized intersection is the safe place to make that connection. The light is there now. I think we wouldn't have to jump through the hoops we would normally have to jump through now, a signal justification to get a signal it's there. So that's the reason one of the reasons why I don't think that the 4-lane road is necessary at this point. And then the volume of traffic is the other major reason that will be traveling on that road. It wouldn't require 4 lanes.
But didn't we hear something about the applicant is going to provide land on either side if it's 2-lane in case in the future it does become 4-lane?
Yes, but now they're going to provide the right of way. The way the original proffer was structured was that if we acquired, no, that was the connection. They were going to construct it. They're giving us the right of way now, but that still leaves the expense of constructing those additional 2 lanes to the county.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So I feel like, we kind of lose in that area. And I mean, overall, I see the point. We're gaining a couple million in proffers, but I mean, that's what the attorney for the applicant showed, a difference between a little over 8 million. Now we're getting a little over 10 million, but the 8 million was proffered in 2007.
So be clear, those are values. Those are not actual cash dollars.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so from 2007 till now is about 15 years. So in 15 years, we're only gaining 2 million in values. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I understand we're gaining, but we're only gaining 2 million over 15 years. And I mean, prices are racing.
I think, Mr. Chair, what you said was correct. Okay. I hate to admit this, but I worked for the county during this period of time. Okay. I've seen all these roads. I've seen the puddles. I've seen some of the swamps where they want to go through Montclair, around that area over there. I can only tell you that I think if we can establish this with the proffers under control, I think this is a great project. And the reason I say it is because I worked for the county, not with the county, for the county at the time this project was approved. This is so much better than what was approved then. I mean, I'm being honest, guys. I'm in full favor of what I see here. Now, I have to go and look at all these pieces of paper that are here. What is the good and what is the bad? Okay? This is not an easy thing to just sit and review. And I know Leon has really work this off to get this done. It's very difficult because if you weren't there in the beginning, you suddenly see, I remember when the big fight was over the fire station. Where are we going to put the fire station? We put it on the other side of this road, don't put it over there. This was believe me guys, this was a real hassle to go from where it was to where this is now. And I think, please do me a favor, look this one over very, very carefully in comparison to what was there, and that's all I can relate to. What was there originally when it was approved versus what is being proposed now. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, in the packet that we were provided under the traffic impacts, it says that the analysis is under review by VDOT at the time this report is prepared. Are they doing another impact, or it's just not received, or what?
Well, so VDOT did finally send their comments yesterday, and as Ms. Cosby said, there were very few comments. The comments that VDOT raised were more about access management along the proposed driveway road. And so, like I stated in my presentation, the applicant has shown the willingness to address those by eliminating one of the entrances. The other comments from VDOT related to potential connections to 207, that if there was a connection there, that they would have to be in line and in conformance with the 207-301 corridor study plan that VDOT has done some years ago. So essentially what they're saying is that if you make a connection to 207, don't look necessarily for a signalized intersection there, but look to do some type of innovative design that VDOT is trying to put in place now to protect the efficiency of the corridors.
I also see in here that staff is not supportive of the removal of the age-restricted units.
Correct.
So the county does not want to lift the 72-year of age restriction.
No.
I want to make sure I understand correctly.
Sure. My comment was that I feel like it's better to have age-restricted units there than to remove the age-restricted units for a number of reasons. One, the age-restricted population is going to require fewer services on the county. Now, I'll preface that by saying there will probably be an uptick in calls for service from fire and EMS. That's a trend with that population. But that population typically has fewer trips on the road. They don't put any children in the school system, and they are typically populations that have disposable income. So from the county's perspective, they are less of a burden on the tax, on the services, than they changing those units to single family detached, attached, or even the villas, because at that point you could have children. You're probably likely to have more persons per household, and so then you're going to have more impact on services and the transportation network as well. So that was the rationale for me saying that I was not in favor of removing the age-restricted units.
There is one section of land that I believe the applicant is seeking a right-of-way on, but has yet to obtain that right-of-way. Is that Travers Lane or?
No. So Travers Lane today dead ends at the commercial portion of this project that fronts on 207. It dead ends there. There's a right-of-way there, and as Ms. Cosby said, this applicant does not control that. They don't own that. But that right-of-way was put there like any other interparcel connection is put on projects so that traffic can indeed make use of that at some point into the future. Just as Travers dead ends into their parcel on there, and then at the other end near the townhomes, those connections were put there so that when this property was developed, there would be connections available. And so there's an opportunity, or at some point, there's an intent that there will be a connection for Traverse to extend down to 207.
Mr. Hughes, it says here that it won't have any impact on the school systems. How is that determined?
When you say it won't have any impact on the school system,
With new residents coming into the county?
I didn't make that statement, I don't believe.
Okay, I thought I saw that in the slide.
I think what the slide was saying, by getting rid of age-restricted housing, I think, I didn't add it up, but they're saying the same amount of houses are going to be there. But I didn't really totally agree with the rationale on that. I mean, it'll be the same amount of houses, but I think there'd be less impact if we did have some age-restricted housing.
Correct, okay.
I mean, the project is well thought out, and it's a good project, Mr. Weaver said. I'm just wondering if we're, seems like we're getting a little less to me, but I would have to add up all the figures. I mean, if we're giving up age-restricted housing, we're only gaining $2 million in value over a 15-year period, and the road widening is going away, and I mean the road's not, it's going to be. It just seems like to me we've kind of, even though it's a good project, we've lost. So I'd like to just kind of take it and look at it a little bit closer.
Carol, I agree. This is very involved with the movement of streets and the movement of buildings and so forth and so on. I would definitely like to see what's on this versus what was originally proposed. I would ask that of staff, if that could be done, what the original proposal was for this area, just for the buildings and so forth and so on, and the ponds, and so we can compare apples to apples. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
And I'll just add to that, through no fault of their own, I do know that one of our commissioners did not receive their packet of information until about noontime Monday. And I don't know if they have had enough time as well to digest what we have here. So commissioners, is there a motion?
Yes, with this being in my district, I would definitely love to see it move forward. I think it's a great project, but I would recommend that we defer it.
I would second that.
There's a motion by Mr. Young, properly seconded by Mr. Weaver. Defer this matter until our next meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. This matter will be deferred until our June 22nd meeting. We'll get you an answer.
It is.
Quite a bit.
I mean, compare apples with apples, but
All right, moving forward, unfinished business. TXT 10-2023. Mr. Fincham, good evening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I handed out this evening to you the latest and greatest version of the amendment to Article 11, Division 7, which is the Planned Innovation Research and Technology District. So in this document, you will see there's a number of strike-throughs as well as additions or modified language that are highlighted in blue. I will not ask the commission to act on this tonight. What I would ask is that you take a look at these changes and come prepared to your June meeting. Address any questions or comments that you have to me so that you can vote on this text amendment at your June meeting and send it forward to the board. The reason in part is that the commission is aware that we have a number of large technology projects looking in the county, one of which was filed 2 weeks ago and is the subject to a request for a comprehensive plan amendment, which the board referred to you from their meeting last night. Separate matter we'll discuss momentarily. But we do, we've been working hard on this ordinance amendment. We've massaged language, working with prospective industry to try to craft a set of regulations that are in the best interest of the county and its residents while recognizing the benefits of this investment in the county. So we are working hard to move the ordinance amendment and the projects forward. So that would be my request to the commission. Spent several hours with Mr. Weaver today going over various provisions. And I would ask that you look at the proposed amendment and contact us with any questions that you might have. And we will continue to work to get this in a final form for the commission at your next meeting.
Can I do a quick question?
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Finn? This is Guinea Station Road. What is your road at the top? Huh? I mean, Stonewall Jackson Road, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Guinea Station goes to the right, Stonewall Jackson
Yes,
goes
ma'am.
from Guinea. And so, and this is your scale of miles, so you're like not quite a mile there
Yeah,
on
roughly
Stonewall
my-
Jackson Road.
Yeah, let me discuss that momentarily, Ms. Horton.
Okay.
Are there any questions related to the proposed ordinance amendment? If not, then, Mr. Chairman, your next item would be the Section 5A under any and all matters.
Yes, sir. Authorization to advertise.
You need a motion to defer the text amendment to your June meeting.
Yes, sir. I so move we defer the text amendment. Let me find the number on it. Until our next meeting.
TXT 10-23.
That's correct. Thank you. I've got too many papers in front of me. Motion has been made to defer, properly seconded by Mr. Weaver. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our next request under any and all matters is Section 5A is to authorize the advertisement for public hearing of TXT 11-2023. That proposed amendment, which is included in your packet, would include a portion of Route 652, which is Carmel Church Loop and Dry Bridge Road, in the Highway Corridor Overlay District. And the purpose of that amendment really is to bring those access and development standards in that portion of 652, which is commercial and industrial, consistent with the other highway corridors where we have commercial and industrial uses on these types of roads. It's really to help us manage commercial and industrial development access on these major collectors and similar types of roads that we focus our economic development efforts on.
Thank you, Mr. Fincham. Commissioners, is there a motion?
I will make a motion that we can approve that public hearing can be advertised.
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Horton, seconded by Mr. Minor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. So moved.
The last item, Mr. Chairman, is an addition to the agenda under any and all matters, which I have kind of as 5B. You have a request from Mr. Charlie Payne related to a comprehensive plan amendment and a public utility facility review, which we call a 2232 review for a project in the northern area of the county that Ms. Horton referred to off of Stonewall Jackson Road. This project is a major economic development project that the county, as well as several other counties and the Commonwealth of Virginia, have worked to bring this technology project to the Commonwealth. And as part of that, it requires a rezoning and a comprehensive plan amendment as included in Mr. Payne's letter to the county. The board last night referred this matter to the Planning Commission for your review and a recommendation to the board. And we would request that you also authorize both a comprehensive plan amendment for public hearing at your June, I believe it's 22nd, Planning Commission meeting. The map that Ms. Horton referred to actually was prepared by county staff in support of the economic development initiative for that area and encompasses only those properties that are included in the zoning rezoning application that the commission will see in the coming months.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, is there a motion to authorize public hearing for the comp plan amendment?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Weaver, seconded by Mr. Minor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, that concludes our business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry.
one quick item that
Yes,
happened
sir.
last night. So last night the board approved a work session, a transportation work session on August 23rd. It is the day before your August commission meeting. But I would invite you all to attend this transportation work session. So the goal of the work session is going to be to take a comprehensive look at transportation in the county and how to start to prioritize projects and move the transportation program in Caroline forward. So I think it's something that would be very beneficial for the commission members to attend and be a part of and to listen to. And the goal is to have representatives there from the Virginia Department of Transportation, the VRE, and the Fredericksburg George Washington Regional Council in attendance as well to provide some insights. So I would just invite you all to put that on your calendar and speak to
Leanne,
your.
when was that date, please?
It was August 23rd.
August 23rd.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday. So if you are available, please do attend, and I think it would be very beneficial.
What time?
Mr. Hughes, let me make a recommendation, if I may. If you would send out a short notification of the meeting via email, that way we have it documented and, might take the burden off of you some.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. All right, Commissioners, the moment you've been waiting for.
Chair, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
When we deferred RZ-01-23, are we gonna get a revised of was done back in 2008 compared to now?
I,
A clean copy?
well, I guess I asked the question specifically, okay? What we're providing now, we should be able to see what was provided before. So we can understand the changes that are being made.
Are we gonna get that?
Excuse me, sir, I'm only here as a whipping boy.
So the question, I can certainly provide that for you, but your packet included a red line version of the original proffers.
Yes.
I understand that red lines are difficult to read sometimes, so I can certainly break that out a little bit more so that you can, it's a little bit.
And I
easier
think
to
that's what
digest.
I'm asking for. What I'm asking for is, they want us to render a decision on what they're now giving us, okay? And I asked the question, what were they giving us before? Okay, it's like I remember when we were fighting over the firehouse being built across the street and so forth and so on. I would just like to know, this is our newest package, okay? What did the old package look like? Just in words, it's okay, it's no big, I don't need a whole bunch of drawings. I would like to be able to compare apples to apples and say, guys, here's what they left out, because I was involved when this was being done. So that's why, it's been a long time, Leon, since that went under the water, so.
Mr. Hughes, you're saying the red line version kind of shows us what they took out?
Yes.
And
Look, that's hard to read,
yeah, I'm not, I see what they took out, but I'm not,
It would be better in a picture.
is the
Leon.
blue what they put in?
Anything that's underlined is new text.
Be better in a picture, that's all I can say.
And I'll be honest
So
with
if
you,
it's
Mr.
red
Hughes.
and underlined, it's new?
Well,
For me, if I see the original copy and I have the updated version, I can compare them side by side without lines and,
so two clean versions.
yes, sir. I know that's extra effort. I know it's double work for you, but
No, that's not a problem.
that's easier for me. I'll just say that monkey is on me.
I mean, it's hard. I apologize. Sometimes the new language is in red and sometimes it's in blue. So
Uh-huh.
it just depends. I'd have to see your version to know if it came out in blue type or red type.
Yeah, there's
it's
not
all
much,
red.
there's not much blue, and sometimes we get the new in blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the old is crossed out in red, and then the black is something that hasn't been changed at all.
Okay.
or at least a legend as to which color goes with what.
We can make that happen.
Kind of trying to figure out what we're losing and what we're gaining.
Sure.
And are we gaining as much as we're losing? Are the citizens gaining as much as we're?
I think there are opportunities in this case to be beneficial to the citizens of Fairlawn.
Well, the attorney basically threw out a whole bunch of numbers. And we're talking about, 20 years ago. So there's a big difference between what we had 20 years ago versus what we have today. That's all. So that's all we're talking about. I'm sorry. Did I step over the line? as
No,
usual?
no real problem, but I would recommend, just for the benefit of the applicant, that you can continue the discussion on the rezoning at the next meeting when they're here.
Okay.
Because I just don't want them to miss something salient. They were entitled to stay, but if it's all the same to the commission, I would recommend that you pick up the discussion at the next meeting.
Yeah, we don't want to do an ex parte session. That's,
Well, we just, we moved on through the agenda, and you're entitled to revisit it. But if you have no particular need to continue discussing it now, I think it would benefit the applicant for them to be here to hear it.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Motion, we object.
There's a motion that we adjourn until June 22nd, 2023, seconded by Mr. Purcell Minor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Happy holidays, safe holidays.